What is up, guys? Welcome back to the freaking channel, Walking on Water. Today's episode is gonna be a freaking sick one. Have you ever wondered what your crankbait is looking like under the water? Have you ever wondered what entices these giant bass, these smallmouths, these pike to come up and hit one of these baits? Have you ever got to see how these baits work and maneuver underwater so you can better understand at what kind of reel-in speed these fish are going to hit and which reactions at which speed are going to be the best presentation for these fish? In today's episode, we're going to dive deep underwater and look at underwater footage of crankbaits, stick bait Rapalas, and a few other different kind of plastic style baits that you guys run and we run to bonk some of these big bass and some of these freaking giant pike on the head. So let's get underwater, stay tuned, let's get after it.
Okay, so this first bait that we have is a 4 3/8 double treble Rapala. Most people will buy this, tie it on, and simply cast it out and reel it back in. And it'll catch a lot of fish that way. I have personally caught a lot of fish on it this way too, but I've also caught a ton of fish by casting it out. It's a floating bait, so giving it a few twitches in the water every few seconds and just giving it a very subtle twitch every once in a while as well will absolutely entice these fish to just absolutely crush this bait. This is an amazing pre-spawn bass bait, and you can get into tight places casting it on a spinning reel or even pulling it in at 1.5 miles an hour. As you can see, it has a nice subtle movement back in the water. It's a stick-like bait, so it's not a giant movement. It doesn't cause a lot of vibration in the water, but it does cause enough to get these big bass to come up, especially pre-spawn bass, to come up and absolutely crush this bait. As you can see, it moving nice back and forth motion, nice steady pace. But like I said previously, throwing it out in tight places, giving it that 1, 2, 3 twitch, letting it float, because it is a floating bait. The bill allows it to dive a little bit, but giving that twitch, reeling a little bit, twitch, reeling a little bit, that nice good motion in the water, which will entice these big old bass to crush that lure. All right, so the next lure that we have is a jointed Rapala. It's a double treble jointed Rapala, and you can actually fish these two different types of ways. We're going to talk about the straight retrieve right now. As you can see here in the video, casting it out, keeping that rod tip down, and you crank about 1.5 miles an hour, and you get that very intense vibration, noise-making motion, as you can see here in the video, and it attracts fish of all different kinds of species. It's a great summertime bass lure as well. You can cast it out, keep that rod tip up, jerk it along the surface because it is a floating bait. If you don't have that rod tip down, it will float, so it'll make a nice wake, a nice vibration on the top of the water, just like a popper frog and other top water baits like that. So this is a multi-purpose bait. Great for many different types of species of fish. Great for bass, summertime bass, using it on the top water. It's an absolute killer and definitely something that you should think about using and having in your arsenal. One of my favorite lures is up next. It is a quick diving crankbait. As you can see on the front, it's got a very long bill on the front. This thing casts like a freaking bullet. You cast it out, you're a little bit deeper water, you've pinpointed some marks on your fish finder out on the lake, and you're out fishing a little bit offshore, and you are instantly diving with this bait down to 6 feet. That bill allows it to dive quickly, the bait casts perfectly, and the bonus of having a quick diving bait is that you can get into these strike zones a lot faster. The lure will dive down, and it creates a lot of noise and action under the water. Okay, this lure suspends itself in the water system because that diving long bill on the front of it, and it just allows you to fish in different depths faster, and as well just to be able to traverse water levels a lot easier with that bill. So you know exactly where you're fishing. These things dive so fast, you start cranking in about 1.5 and it goes down to 6 feet and you're fishing, and that's where some of these big giant bass like to live. So this is a must-have. Last but not least is the square bill crankbait, and this is an absolute amazing crankbait to fish. You can bounce this thing off cover. You can bounce it off branches. It's not easy to get hung up, but the disturbance in the water from this shallow diving square build crankbait is actually insane. There's 2 BBs in this thing. It rattles, it shakes, it creates a nice little wake on the water. It dives about 1 to 2 feet deep, and it's just extremely versatile. You could be in open water. You can be fishing next to cover. You can fish docks. You can fish trees. You can fish underwater structures. And this square bill crankbait is going to provide the right presentation at the right depth every single time. This is a shallow diving from the short square bill on the front of this crankbait. So you're not going to fish super deep with this thing, but you are going to fish very effectively up against cover, underwater structures, trees, branches. And with that little square bill and you hit something, it doesn't allow you to get snagged up as easy as some of these other baits that we've talked about today. So this is a powerhouse of a crankbait. 100% should be using this. This is why you should be fishing. These things are just so fun to get hooked up onto a big bass right next to some cover as you're cranking this shallow diving square build crankbait in.
All right, guys. So those are the freaking stick bait Rapalas, the crankbaits. This is how they look and work underwater at different speeds, from 1.5 mile an hour all the way up to 2 miles an hour, doing turns. So when you're cranking these baits in, you guys have a better understanding or a better idea of how these baits work in the water. LEWS Mach 2 Baitcaster Combo giveaway is happening right now on the channel. Once we hit 4,000 watch hours, we are going live and giving one of you guys, a subscriber who has commented on videos and has engaged in content, a brand new LEWS Mach 2 Baitcaster combination rod. I am super excited. God bless you guys. Thank you so freaking much for the support and walking on water. I love these videos. I love making these videos for you guys. Peace out.